Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bayou Bets for a Thursday, August 31st, 2023. I'm Jim Derry, along with my friend Spencer the Guru Urquhart. Zoe Collins-Rath is behind the scenes. Gabe Henderson will be joining us in a little while as we talk college football week one. Spencer, what is up?
Oh, shoot. Yeah, ready to go, Jim. Excited to get into this college football talk. It's here. I know Gabe and some people love week 0, but hey, I mean, this is the real stuff here. Week 1, we've got a lot of Power 5 matchups and a lot of good stuff because next week will be NFL. So, yeah, can't wait to get into this.
You know, week 0 is kind of like Coke Zero and Pepsi Zero. I'll drink it if I absolutely have to, but give me the real thing. The real thing is starting this week. We remind you before we get started with week 1 that Bayou Bets is brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook, which is the official odds partner of bet.NOLA.com. And we ask you to subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel if you haven't already. No matter where you're watching this show, it helps us, it helps you, it helps everybody. It's a win-win situation. So get onto the Bayou Bets YouTube channel and subscribe. Today's topics, I'm pretty sure you know what they're going to be. It's a top 10 showdown Sunday as LSU takes on Florida State. Tulane is going to host South Alabama. Is it a must-win for the Green Wave? We're going to talk about that. Later on, we'll be talking about the Saints. First time in a while, the Saints have not led the show, but they don't lead the show today. Dennis Allen is doing his best Kenny Rogers imitation because he is the gambler. He is making all kinds of moves. We're going to talk about that in a little while. And the Bayou Bets crew is making our picks. In fact, we're going to start it off because we're going to make our LSU and Tulane picks in each segment today. Spence, we're going to start off with the LSU football Tigers, a big one on Sunday night. The national spotlight shining on both of these teams, LSU and Florida State. LSU at number 5, Florida State at number 7. Minus 2.5 for the Tigers, over under of 56. How big is this game in the context of things for both teams?
Oh, it's extremely big as far as if you win this game, you've got aspirations of going undefeated because these are two of the best teams in the nation. So if you can take this one home, then it's like, who's going to stop you at that point? So I know they're both got some other tough games down the road, but this is one, if you can get this done, gives you a lot of momentum heading into just, the whole shebang here.
I agree. And you know what I'm really interested in seeing both quarterbacks play, and they were both, you could tell last year in this game, they were kind of starting to feel their way. Well, both are established, quote unquote, veterans now. Jayden Daniels, especially in the Heisman Trophy conversation early on in the preseason, just 10-1. And I actually think that's a pretty good value. I'm really interested to see this LSU offensive line against the Florida State defensive line, and then the Florida State receivers against the LSU defensive backfield.
Definitely, yeah, because I was looking at it, there's really no weaknesses on either side. I mean, both have lots of returning talent, obviously have strong leadership at quarterback with Jayden Daniels and Jordan Travis. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what weak spots, or what positions end up being weak spots in this matchup, because they don't really have any on paper. But as we all know, weaknesses get exploited throughout the game, and then adjustments occur and such. So I'm thinking that, I've got FSU with the points, but picking this one straight up is almost even tougher because it's like I like them both about the same. So if you're going to give me points with someone, that's who I'm leaning with. So against the spread, leaning FSU, but yeah, it's tough to bet against LSU, though, because I know they're cooking up something special.
I tried to make a pick on a team, and I just couldn't. I'm kind of with you. I've been talking about how tight I think this game's going to be, and I really believe it. I truly believe this is going to come down to the wire. Maybe not as crazy as last year when LSU missed an extra point that would have tied it and sent it into overtime. But that being said, I do think it's going to be – it could come down to a field goal. It could come down to one defensive unit having to hold on. It could come down to one of the quarterbacks having to make a play. But I think it's going to be more – I think they're going to be more points scored. I think both of these offense, again, they're going to be really feeling their groove. These Florida State receivers, as good as LSU's receivers are and have been for a long time, I think Florida State's receivers might even be a little bit better. I think they're going to be a lot of points in this game scored. It's interesting because the over-under started out, I think, a couple of weeks ago. I saw it at 54.5, ticked up to 55 and stayed there for a while. and then jumped all the way to 58 before it has kind of ticked down a little bit. And now it is at 56, which tells me some big money the last few days since we aired Monday's show has been on the under. Well, if I'm with Aunt Mabel, so be it. I like the over in this game. I think they're going to be a ton of points being scored. I think LSU is going to win, but certainly not enough to lay 2.5, and not enough to take minus 140 on the money line. My best bet is going to be over 56.
Yeah, I could see it because, Florida State's receiving core is definitely upgraded. They brought in Keon Coleman from the transfer portal. He's someone that I covered in high school. He was at Opelousas Catholic, an amazing athlete, someone that I'm sure LSU was after when he transferred out but ended up at Florida State. So, him and the rest of that crew is going to be tough to defend. The LSU secondary has got a lot of new faces there.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see how they gel. If they can gel quickly, then it's good news for the Tigers, obviously. If they struggle, though, I mean, Jordan Travis, you know what he can do through the air, and with that upgraded receiving core, that could be the difference there if LSU secondary has some trouble.
Gabe Henderson says he's got a great feeling. He's not biased at all when he says this. He's got a great feeling that LSU covers the minus 2.5. Again, if I were forced to pick one way or the other, and good thing I'm not. I mean, they don't make us make picks. I mean, we have to make some picks, but they don't force us to pick certain games. And in this case, I don't like either one. I'm not going to bet either way. That's why I like the over. I just think it's too tight to bet it. Again, if I were forced to make a pick, I would take LSU, but I don't love it. I've said it before. I think Florida State and LSU, I think they both have an excellent chance to make the college football playoff. It wouldn't surprise me if they were both in there, but the winner of this game certainly has a leg up going the rest of the way. We're going to talk about college football a little bit more in our next segment and at the end when we make our picks. But let's move on, Spencer, to Tulane. They also have a big game this week. They are playing South Alabama. We have to ask the question, and you get into hyperbole and the whole must-win thing, and I'm not a fan of the term must-win, but I got to say, I mean, in the sense of if Tulane wants to be in that Big Six bowl again at the end of the season, like they snuck up and ended up making it to the Cotton Bowl last year, if they want to be in that kind of bowl game again, this is a game that they have to win. So it's not a must-win as far as whatever. They can still obviously go to a bowl game and have a great season and all that if they don't win. But as far as getting back to where they were last year or even improving on it, they've got to win this game against South Alabama.
Oh, it's a big one, no doubt. But I think the Green Wave might run into trouble here because South Alabama's got a lot of returning talent. It's going over there, especially on offense. They've just got so many talented players left and back. And last year, they were just a few plays away from having a 12-0 season and like having a really special season themselves. So I'm thinking they might be a team that could be kind of like Tulane last year as far as someone that just goes on a Cinderella run. Well, it wouldn't really be a Cinderella run because people are expecting them to be at the top of the Sun Belt. So this is a tough draw. Tulane's early schedule is brutal. South Al, Ole Miss, and then at Southern Miss. Dang, that is rough.
Then it's really easy after that.
Right.
So,
right.
You play it that way. The American Athletic is nowhere near as tough as it was last year. Houston and Cincinnati are gone. They still have Memphis, but other than that, really, their only roadblocks on the way to winning this conference is going to be Memphis and UTSA. So, I mean, other than that, if Tulane can even go 2-1 in those games that you talked about, they have an excellent chance to have a 10-win season and potentially make it back. But I think they've got to win this game. I hear what you're saying about South Alabama being better, and obviously the odds makers think so because I just don't think Tulane's getting enough respect. I don't understand why they're 24th ranked. Coming off of a season where they finished 9th in the country after beating USC last year in the Cotton Bowl, they get their quarterback back. They have 4 of their offensive linemen back. They have most of their defense back, and they have 2. And now they lose Tajay Spears, but they still have Ashad Clayton, and they still have Iverson Celestine and other good skill players as well. So I just don't get it. I think Tulane ought to be at least number 15 or so. But the odds makers obviously think this is going to be a tighter game because the fact that Tulane is at home and just a 6.5 point favorite opened up at 7.5. It dropped as low as 6 and went back to 6.5, and it's been there for about a week now. Over under also is going down and down and down. So I'm with the big money here. I don't want to make a pick on the spread. I feel more comfortable with Tulane minus 6.5 than I do LSU minus 2.5. I do like Tulane in this game. I do think they'll win by a touchdown or so. That number is kind of scary. I easily could see them winning by 6 or so, but I really like the under. I think this is going to be a defensive fight. I think it's going to be in the neighborhood of like 23 to 16-ish or something along those lines. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. And if you like defense, I think this is going to be a fun one to watch. Going to be a lot of running. Michael Pratt might not throw 35 passes in this game because I think you're going to see a lot of Shoddy Clayton and a lot of Iverson Celestine in this game. But we'll see. So Spencer's got South Al plus 6.5. Look, he's contrarian. He's going against the home teams there. He's going against LSU, and he's going against Tulane. So if you want to give him some grief, you're more than welcome to fill in the comments section here. We'll show it on the screen. If you have a prediction as well, feel free to type it in. If you're watching on YouTube and Facebook, we will show it here on the screen. Again, we're going to finish the show with our Picks segment, and Zoe and Gabe are going to come on and talk about Colorado in a little bit. That ought to be fun. But before we get to that, Spencer, got to talk about the Saints. And I thought this was such an interesting week. And Dennis Allen really just kind of putting his stamp on this team. I love it. I got to say, I love it. He said, you know what? We're going to ship Will Lutz off. You can have him, Sean Payton. We're not sticking with Blake Gillikin, even though he was kind of DA's guy before. We're going to go with Lou Hedley. The tattooed wonder is going to be the new Saints punter. And so a whole new special teams group there, cutting Bradley Roby. So there were definitely some surprises on cutdown day.
Right, yeah, cutting Jalen Smith, even though he performed really well in the preseason. So yeah, this is DA making moves, and can't really argue with it too much because he's got to put his own stamp on this thing. And I like that he shuffled up the special teams room because I feel like with Groupie and then the tattooed wonder punter dude, I think dealt with them, they'll at least have more upside as opposed to the other way, which would have been quote unquote safer. But then It's like if you keep them and they don't do well, it's just kind of like, you feel more tied down to them. Where if these rookies struggle, and you also give them a little bit longer leash, as well as the fact that there's going to be veterans out there in the off chance that they just can't hang. But I think they'll be good, especially Blake Groupie. I liked what I saw from him in the preseason. So I think it'll work out. And you got to take calculated risk. I mean, they called him the gambler here. I mean, he brought in Derek Carr. As long as you have a good foundation, you can kind of tinker with the other parts of the roster. And if you can hit on those other spots to complement the core pieces, then you've got yourself a winner.
We were talking in pre-production about how much money the Saints are going to save by having Blake Groupie in there instead of Will Lutz. And it's somewhere in the neighborhood, both cap space-wise and salary-wise, somewhere around the neighborhood of $1.6, $1.7 million when you're looking at the dead cap money that the Saints are going to save. Maybe it helps them bring in another player. Maybe they know, offensive line, guard, tackle, whatever. Give me an offensive lineman. I think they know that they need some help there, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if they're trying to save money. Now, that's probably not the only reason to trade a Will Lutz, because, frankly, he hasn't been great the past couple of years. But it is a risky move. I mean, I know people might not like the term the gambler, but it is a gamble, because if Blake Groupie starts missing some kicks earlier, we were both on the Groupie train. We both said that we would rather see Groupie in there. But if Groupie misses a big kick, or if Hedley shanks a punt that cost him maybe a win or cost him big field position or something, this is going to come up early in the season.
Yeah, you got a point. I just feel like, though, with Lutz, I just didn't really have much confidence in him the past couple of years, the way he's been performing. And so I think it was time to make a change there. And I think Groupie's going to work out. I really do. I think this will be one of those things. It seems risky now, but I think looking back on it, we'll be like, okay, yeah, that was the right call.
Numbers haven't changed much for the week 1 game. A week from Sunday In the Caesars Superdome, the Saints will open the season against the Tennessee Titans. The Saints are 3.5-point favorites over under a 41. That is a noon game. Spencer and I both will be in the Dome, and we will be giving you updates from the Dome on September 10th. Looking forward to that. I think also interesting, those numbers at the bottom of your screen, the 9.5 on the Saints win total has kind of fluctuated a little bit. It was minus 110, I think, when we did the show last Thursday. Monday, it had changed to the over was actually even money, and the under was minus 120. Spencer, it's going back to over minus 110, under minus 110. So it's kind of fluctuating a little bit, but it doesn't look like it's going to come off that 9.5, not at Caesars. Now, you can get 9 at other places. So depending on how you may want to play this thing, if you want to play Saints over, you may want to shop around. If you want to play Saints under, then Caesars Sportsbook, again, the official odds partner of bet.NOLA.com, is the place for you, because even, basically just the juice minus 110 at 9.5 either way.
Yeah, this is an interesting number. I'm still leaning with the under there, because I've still got the Saints going 9-8, but I might do some reevaluating. There's still some time to tinker, and so maybe put a little bit on. I think I'm still gonna stick with the under, but
I've been back and forth. And those who have been following us at bet.nola.com know that I've been doing my team by team previews. We are going to wrap up the AFC North tomorrow. We just posted the Cincinnati Bengals a little while ago. And so tomorrow we'll have for you the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then next week it's the NFC South, and that's it. We're done. And so I will tell you that I think I have settled on my Saints prediction. I've been waffling back and forth, and I think I finally settled on my Saints prediction. Not going to give it away here yet, but we'll talk about it next week for sure. But it's tough, man. I tell you what, that number it's nowhere near like last year where we were all wrong, but I was sure they were going over last year. I'm not sure about anything. I think there might be some value plays here, but I'm not sure about anything. So. And that Win NFC South number has also changed, Spencer. It was plus 125 just a few weeks ago, and it went down to plus 105, and it stayed there. But the fact that it went down that far, now basically even money to bet the Saints to win the division.
Yeah, I'm not touching that number, because I still think there's a good chance the Falcons could win it. That's something I'm on the fence on. I think I've got them both 9-8, but I'm going to go through the schedule and figure out who's going to win the tiebreaker to win the division. So to me, if they're that close, there's just more value with Atlanta, who's like plus 2 something, I believe. It's just, it's more value.
I'm going to give you my values, because I definitely have a value play for the NFC South to win the division. I'm not going to tell you who I think's going to win the division, but I'll tell you that I have a value play on the division, because someone has a great value there. Again, I'm not giving it away. You're going to have to come back next week and find out. All right, we are going to move on. Before we get to our overall picks, I want to talk a little bit. And again, I didn't get to make a slide for this. So we're going to bring in Zoe Collins-Rath and Gabe Henderson. We're going to talk a little bit about, let's see how this is going to work here as I do this on the fly. This is going to be, it's like the Brady Bunch. I feel like fun. We're going to talk a little bit about Colorado and TCU, and it's, we could talk about LSU and Tulane all day long, but there are other games going on. This is really week 1. It's not week 0 where there are like 10 games going on. There are plenty of games going on this week. This is a real week. If you look at the schedule, it's full. In fact, when I was doing my my highlighted games, there were way too many games to list them all. So one of the highlight games this week for all of us, I think, is Colorado against TCU. For Spencer and I, it's highlighted because we just want to see it, and I want to see Prime and how he does at Colorado. For the two people below us and our friends and colleagues, it's important for different ways, and I'm going to let them say why it's important. Zoe, I'm going to let you go first.
Well, I graduated from CU in 2019 in a blizzard. I will never forget it, and I went through some ups and downs during that time under Coach McIntyre, who was gone. When I graduated, we had Mel Tucker, and y'all know how I feel about Mel Tucker. He is one of our passwords for one of our accounts that we use here at work. And Carl Zarrell, didn't work out, and you can't have a losing season in your first year in the Pac-12. Okay. Now, when Deion Sanders came in, oh boy, are you guys ready for a good time? I'm ready for a good time, and I am so excited that there's hope in Boulder. I can't wait. And on the off chance Ralphie makes the journey from Colorado to Fort Worth, bless her heart, this game could go in a different direction. Right, Dave?
No. Well, it's funny because when I was growing up, and Prime and I are about the same age. So when he was going to Florida State, I was not a fan at all. And then he went and played for the Falcons. I was even less of a fan. Mm-hmm. So, but him as a coach, actually, when he got onto the NFL Network, and then as a coach, I've become a big Prime fan, and I've liked what he's done. He's fun to watch. But Gabe, for some unknown reason, you're just not pulling for him here.
No, it's not that I'm not pulling for him, and don't get it twisted. I mean, I think he's a damn good coach. I just don't think he's one of the coaches, say Brian Kelly, Nick Saban, that can transform a program in the span of a year, especially given how bad that roster was last year and how much turnover there's been. When one of the most popular bets as far as win totals is gone is Colorado over the wins. And if I look at that schedule, I don't see 4 wins. I see 3 wins guaranteed. So I think they have to beat one of the Arizona schools, which could definitely happen. Both the Arizona schools are going to be pretty bad this year, but I'm just not ready to hammer the over like everybody else, especially against TCU. I don't think TCU is going to be anywhere near as good. I wouldn't take TCU to win by 21 points per se, but I think TCU will win this game comfortably.
So the Texas native is picking TCU, and the Colorado grad is picking Colorado. Shocking.
I hate it.
So shocking.
Okay, put it this way. I'm going to correct you here, Jim. Fort Worth and Dallas is not Texas. That is South Oklahoma.
Oh, precious love.
Oh, my goodness.
As someone who grew up above the Mason-Dixon line, it is all Texas to me. I don't care if it's part of Oklahoma or what. And I'm actually curious, Gabe, what 3 games do you think CU will win? Enlighten me.
Let me take it. I know Colorado State is one of them. Mm-hmm. Colorado State for sure. I think they beat Stanford.
Okay.
And then I think they beat Arizona State. I could see them having a chance against Arizona. I could see them having a chance against Washington State. But I think those are the only 3 guaranteed wins they have on their schedule.
Not
about Nebraska.
Thank you.
Okay,
hold on. I'm going to bash on my other alma mater, Northwestern. Vivek, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Nebraska lost to Northwestern, and I think that was their only victory. Come on.
I think Nebraska has more talent than Colorado.
I disagree. With an overhaul program, no way.
I think they have a better coach, too.
Nebraska has more people that go to their volleyball games than they go to their football games. Just saying.
I just don't think
women coming in save the day.
You asked for guaranteed wins. I gave you guaranteed wins. I don't see 4 guaranteed wins on that schedule, so I'm not one who's racing to take the over.
All right.
I mean, here's the thing. I think when you overcall a program in the SWAC or the MEAC, you could get that done a little bit easier, and it's harder to do that at a school in a Pac-12 type of conference. But I also think there's a lot of changes in the Pac-12 and conferences in general. So if Deion overhauled coaching staff, game plans, and players, I don't see why they can't win at least 4 games, maybe 5 games. It's his first season. Let's be realistic.
Well, El Rey says unless a corn shucking competition breaks out, Colorado's going to win all day.
I'll take him off on that bet.
Does TCU shuck corn? I mean, maybe Nebraska. I
think the thing with Nebraska, the point about Nebraska, they also have a new head coach there, and Matt Rule.
Matt Rule's a more experienced head coach, and he's done well at the college level.
He certainly hasn't done well at the professional level.
Right. Yeah, he's a college guy. Yeah, Nick Saban didn't do well at the pro level. Not saying Matt Rule's Nick Saban, but I definitely think he could get Nebraska reignited this year.
Spencer, if you want us to start ignoring you for the rest of time, then you keep comparing Matt Rule to Nick Saban.
I just brought up a point about how you can be a failed NFL coach and still have success in college. That's all I was saying.
Urban Meyer, another great example.
Well, I mean, that's true. But Urban Meyer, both of these, you're talking about guys who did it a lot longer in college too than Matt Rule did it. I mean, you know, what did he have? A few good years. It got him a pro job.
Matt Rule overhauled two programs. I mean, he was the one who took Baylor after their whole scandal.
He also likes hiring his buddies. That's a whole different story.
Yeah, Panthers are idiots for hiring him. But.
All right, well, it was fun. You know, I will say this before we let y'all go. You know, Zoe and I have something in common. We both went to college for 8 years. The only difference is she has 2 degrees. So
actually, it was 5.
You're 5. Oh, you went to school. You got 2 degrees in 5 years.
Yeah,
that's really impressive.
I don't want to go into my education.
With that, we're gonna let you go because now I'm just embarrassed. Thank you for joining us.
Thank y'all,
my friends. Let's get on with the show here. I'm now thoroughly embarrassed, and you know, maybe I should go to school for another 8 years. Who knows? All right. Anyway, back to our picks. It's time to make our picks of the week. Spencer, it's our first set of college picks. Give me your 4 best.
All right, so yeah, I got Utah -4.5 tonight. I know Gabe's with me on that. Even though they won't have their starting QB, not too concerned about that because they've got a lot of returning skill players, and their defense is really stingy. So I think Florida, their offense will be in transition. It'll be Graham Mertz, the transfer, instead of Anthony Richardson. They've still got some kinks to iron out under Billy Napier. So I think Utah at home, a good play at -4.5. Also, Tennessee -28. I know that's a huge spread, but Josh Heupel's teams know how to run up scores. Last year in the 2 or 3 games against inferior opponents, they just ran that thing up, covered the 30, 40-point spread, whatever it is. And Virginia is just a mess right now, looking like the bottom feeder of the ACC. So I like that play. And then a total play that I like this week is North Carolina, South Carolina. I like the over in that one. It's set way up at like 64.5, I believe, but I'm still taking the over. Drake May, Spencer Rattler. That's going to be a freaking shootout. Neither defense looks worth a crap, so I'm going to go ahead and hammer that over, even though that's a very high number. But with those 2 QBs, I'm thinking that hits. And then the Clemson Duke under is another play that's kind of intriguing to me, because they both got good offenses there. But Clemson's defense gets kind of slept on. Everyone talks about they had Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson over the years, but they've also had really good defenses under Dabo Swinney. So I'm thinking they humbled Duke a little bit. Duke coming in riding high after their surprisingly strong year last year.
My pick of the week is UTSA -2 over Houston. I think that the Roadrunners are going to be a tough out in this new AAC. I really do. I think they're going to give Tulane fits when they get that far. I don't think they play till towards the end of the year. I think Tulane closes with Memphis, but I think they play UTSA towards the end of the year. I think it's going to be a tough out for Tulane going forward, and I think they're going to prove how good they are. Jeff Trail has done a really nice job with them since he got there a few years ago. My second pick, you know, I think there's been so much talk, and I'm down on Alabama for the year. All this talk about the quarterback, they're just pissing Saban off. So I think he's going to come into this game against Middle Tennessee with something to prove. I don't care who plays quarterback. I think the Crimson Tide are just going to blast the doors off of Middle Tennessee in this opening game just to kind of prove a point. Again, for the season, I don't like Alabama. I think they're going to have a tough year. I think their quarterback battles they're going to give them fits as they go along. But I think in this one particular game, I could easily see them winning like 52-0, 52-3, somewhere along those lines. So give me Alabama. I'll give the 39 points, something I don't do very often. And that leads me to Colorado. I mean, we were talking about the Buffs. I'm taking them. I'm taking Prime. I'm buying in. I don't care if I'm with Joe Q Public and I'm with Aunt Mabel. I'm buying in. I think TCU is going to have a hard fall from last year. It got a couple guys on our staff here to have to paint their faces, which was wonderful, by the way. That's one of the best Bayou Bets in the history of Bayou Bets. Go back and find that one where Gabe and Spencer painted their faces. I think it's going to be a down year for TCU, and I think Colorado, people like to just get on Prime. I'm on his bandwagon. Give me the Buffs in 20.5. I think that's going to be an interesting game. And then lastly, it's a Monday night game. I like Duke. I think Clemson's going to have a down year. I've been saying I think Florida State is going to win the ACC. I wish it were 14 and not 13. But that being said, I think Duke is going to give Clemson all they can handle. I think it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be a fun Monday night game. I agree with Spencer that Clemson's defense gets slept on. So I actually endorse the under pick as well. But I'm going to go take the Duke because of that under. I think you might have a lower scoring kind of game. Lower scoring games, you're going to give me 2 touchdowns. I'll go ahead and take it. And as we told you earlier, our picks on LSU Florida State. You see that one on the screen. Spencer likes Florida State plus a 2.5. I went with the total, the over 56. And with Tulane and South Al, Spencer likes South Al plus 6.5. I'm going to take the under 52. It's going to be a fun weekend, Spencer. We're finally getting to some real football. I am looking forward to it. And I have both my fantasy drafts this weekend. I know you've had some already. Also looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, most definitely, Jim. It's finally here, man. Yeah, a lot of fantasy drafts going down, and it's interesting to see if the local teams can prove me wrong. Picked against them here, but we're going to see what happens. Can't wait.
It's going to be fun for those of you Datitude fans out there, the 2 or 3 of you. We appreciate you. And there's no Datitude this week. Got too much going on. We are trying to finish these NFL previews, so we're going to take the week off of Datitude, and then next week we'll be back in full bore. In fact, we're talking about doing a Thursday show, possibly do our pick show on Thursday morning for Datitude. I haven't finalized that yet. Uncle Big Nick is going to be back. We're going to have our little contest again. Looking forward to having Uncle Big Nick back. And then Larry Holder, the Athletic, is going to join me on Friday morning to preview not just the Saints, but to go through kind of the NFL slate and pick through some of the games that we like along the way. So the next Datitude will be on Friday, September the 8th. And guess what? There'll be a game before then. So that's exciting. Kansas City and Detroit will kick off the season a week from Thursday. No Bayou Bets on Monday as well for Labor Day. So we will back on Thursday talking about that Kansas City-Detroit game, talking about week 2 of college football, and especially talking about Saints-Titans in week 1 of the NFL. We hope you can join us. Everyone enjoy their holiday weekend. Thank you for joining us on Bayou Bets. See you next week. Peace and love, my friends.